The jacket was the first thing anyone would have noticed. Navy blue, Kwon Tower, facility services stitched above the left pocket in white thread. Lying on a floor that cost $340 per square foot and had never once held anything this ordinary. Next to it, a stuffed elephant, worn soft at one ear. Someone had written Zara Jr. in permanent marker along the underside of its trunk. And on the leather sofa, the one no one had ever slept on in the 11 years Ji-hoon Kwon had occupied this floor. A 3-year-old boy was curled up asleep, head resting against the sleeve of the most dangerous man in Chicago. One small fist pressed to the man's arm like an anchor. Half the office lights were off. Ji-hoon wasn't asleep. He was staring at the ceiling. 47 floors below, the city moved the way it always did. Loud, relentless, without memory of anyone it had already broken. Up here, the only sound was the boy's breathing. Slow, even, completely unafraid. Ji-hoon hadn't heard anything sound like that in a very long time. Before I tell you how a cleaning woman's worst Tuesday became the day that changed both their lives, drop a comment right now. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. I want to know who's here for this one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. This story runs 6 parts. And trust me, you won't want to find out halfway through that you missed the beginning. The phone rang at 5:47 a.m. Maya had been awake for 9 minutes. She'd gotten home at 1:23 a.m., collapsed into bed without changing, and planned to sleep until Eli climbed onto her chest and poked her cheek, which was how every morning began and which she had, against all logic, come to depend on. Then the phone rang. She answered before the second ring. That was the kind of person she was now. Maya, Carl from dispatch. We've got a situation on 22. Carl from dispatch only called when something had gone badly enough that the morning crew couldn't pretend otherwise. Protein shake blender, executive break room. Somebody left it running. The ceiling's involved. She didn't ask how. 8 months at Kwon Tower had taught her that executive break rooms were where the laws of physics went to be humiliated. Extra rate is $23.50, Carl added. She was already doing the math before he finished the sentence. What time? 7. Let me make a call. She tried 3 numbers, Mrs. Denise, Indianapolis. Priya in 3C, voicemail. The babysitter on the 3rd floor disconnected last month. It was 5:58. She stood in her kitchen, the faucet dripping every 11 seconds, and looked at Eli's bedroom door. She made the only decision available. Eli, baby, time to get up. He opened his eyes, not startled, just arriving at consciousness like a place he'd been before. He was wearing his dinosaur shirt, the one with the mustard stain she'd scrubbed 3 times and eventually accepted. In his arms, Zara Jr., the stuffed elephant. Gray, worn soft at the left ear from 3 years of being held exactly the same way. Change of plans. You're coming to work with mommy today. He processed this seriously. Can Batman come? Batman was the spider, upper left corner of Eli's bedroom ceiling. Small, motionless for approximately 22 hours out of every 24. Eli had named him on a Tuesday in March and refused to allow any cleaning implement within 3 feet of that corner. Batman needs to stay home. He's guarding the apartment. Eli nodded once. Batman has a job, just like mommy. By 6:38, they were on the platform. By 7:06, they were walking through the service entrance on the east side of Kwon Tower. The building had no name on the outside. 47 floors of black glass and steel on Michigan Avenue, not a single letter on the facade. People who needed to know, knew. Maya had worked here 8 months, service entrance, maintenance elevator, assigned floor. She cleaned, she left, gone before the permanent occupants arrived. She had vacuumed Ji-hoon Kwon's office 3 nights a week for 7 of those months, and never once been there while he was in the building. She intended to keep it that way. On the stairwell landing of the 14th floor, she knelt and took Eli's face in her hands. Special room, quiet voice, tablet, headphones, snacks. You do not leave for any reason unless there is a fire. Do you understand? What if I have to sneeze? Sneeze in the special room. What if Batman texts me? He does not have a phone, baby. Eli looked uncertain about this, but let it go. On the 47th floor at 6:51 a.m., Ji-hoon Kwon was ending a phone call. He never raised his voice. That was what people consistently failed to understand. They expected loud. Ji-hoon said what needed to be said and let the silence do the rest. Tell Marcus the Meridian contract is canceled. Not renegotiated, canceled. By noon. Sir? That's a $31 million partnership. Ji-hoon set the phone down, went back to his desk, pulled up the security feed. Habit, same as every morning. On camera 14, a woman in a navy maintenance jacket walking a 3-year-old toward the supply room on 18. The boy held a stuffed elephant and nodded slowly, with the gravity of someone receiving important instructions. Ji-hoon watched for 5 seconds, then looked back at his reports. He told himself that was the end of it. She had no idea that in exactly 67 minutes, her son would be sitting in the one room she had spent 8 months learning to be invisible from. Maya stood outside the supply room on the 18th floor, her hand on the door handle. Through the door, The small sound of the tablet starting up, Eli settling in. She stood there for 3 seconds. Just 3. Then she opened the door, kissed his forehead once, and went to work. The blender situation on 22 was worse than Carl had described. Someone had loaded a commercial blender with kale, spinach, frozen banana, secured nothing, pressed the highest setting, and left the room. The result covered ceiling tiles 7 and 8 on the third row, the backsplash, the inside of the microwave door, and a 4-foot radius of countertop. Maya didn't react. She got the stepladder. She started at the ceiling, done by 8:31. The supply room door was unlocked. She pushed it open. The tablet was on the table, screen dark. The headphones were on the floor. The granola bar wrapper was open and half finished. Zara Jr. was gone, which was not normal. Maya checked the small bathroom, empty. She stepped into the hallway, both directions. Nobody. She called Beverly. Maintenance dispatch. This is Beverly. Bev, I need you to check the cameras on 18. My son, he was in the supply room and he's not there anymore. He's 3. Dinosaur shirt. Carrying an elephant. A pause. Keys clicking. Maya, honey. He came out at 8:04. Walked to the elevator bank. Beverly stopped. What? Where did he go? He pressed 47. The hallway did not literally tilt. Maya knew that. It felt like it did. Because it's the highest number and it lights up brightest, Beverly said with the careful quality of someone delivering information they would very much prefer not to be delivering. Maya, security is looking, but 47 is Mr. Kwon's private floor, so they have to go through protocol before. Maya was already at the elevator bank. The elevator stopped between 28 and 29. Maya pressed the emergency button 4 times. Called maintenance. Transferred twice. My son is on the 47th floor. He's 3. He's alone. Ma'am, I understand your concern. Work faster. 19 minutes standing. She did not sit down. When the doors opened on 29, she took the stairs. She climbed 18 floors, shoes off. Better grip, less noise, and pushed through the door on 47 with her shoes in one hand and her heart in her throat. The floor was carpeted, deep charcoal gray. A reception desk, curved walnut, clean as a verdict. Behind it, a woman in a structured black blazer looked up, Linda Yoon. She looked at Maya, took in the maintenance uniform, the shoes in hand, the 18th floor expression, and said nothing. Just gestured once toward the office at the far end of the corridor. Maya pressed herself against the first pillar. She knew she looked ridiculous. A cleaning woman in a wrinkled polo, hugging a marble column, shoes dangling from her left hand. She did it anyway. The office door was open 6 inches, 6 inches of visibility, 6 inches of doom. She moved to the next pillar, then the next. Linda continued typing, not looking up, which meant she'd been told not to, which meant someone had expected this. Maya reached the door. She looked through the gap. Ji-hoon Kwon was on the sofa, 6 feet and some inches of him stretched along dark leather, eyes closed. The navy suit was slightly rumpled, jacket still on, which told her he hadn't planned this. Against his right arm, Eli, curled completely into the space between Ji-hoon's side and the sofa back, Zara Jr. tucked under his chin. His small chest rising and falling in the rhythm of genuine, total sleep, the rhythm that only happened when he felt completely safe. Maya reached through the gap. Her fingers were 4 inches from Eli's shoulder. 3-2. A hand closed around her wrist. Not rough. Precise, the way someone catches a glass before it falls. Ji-hoon's eyes were open, dark, clear. Awake in the way of someone who had been awake the whole time. He looked at her for 2 full seconds. She'd forgotten, in this sequence of crises of the last 41 minutes, to be afraid of him. She remembered now. Not loudly, just the way you remember something true. Breathe, he said. His voice was low, not unkind. Maya breathed. After 3 seconds, exactly 3, he released her wrist. Not because she'd pulled. He simply decided to let go, the way a man sets something down when he's finished examining it. The choice was entirely his, and somehow that was what steadied her. He climbed up here on his own, she said. He's 3. He doesn't understand. I know. I watched. What she didn't know was that Ji-hoon hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night in 9 years. Not since his brother handed their father forged documents, and Ji-hoon watched everything he'd built become evidence against him. The boy had climbed onto the sofa, placed Zara Jr. on his forearm like an offering, and said, "You look tired." Ji-hoon had no answer. He was asleep in 11 minutes. Maya stood in the gap of the office doorway. The afternoon light came in low through the west-facing glass, cutting across the carpet, and in that light the dust moved slowly, suspended, as if the room had decided for this 1 hour that the usual rules did not apply. She wasn't sure she was ready to move. The conversation that followed was not what Maya expected. She'd expected forms, a call to HR, an explanation of why she should collect her things and not return. Ji-hoon Kwon was not known for second chances. Instead, he said, "Tell me about him, not about the supply closet, about Eli." So Maya talked. She told him about the daycare that opened at 7:30 and the dispatch call at 5:47 and the 3 numbers she'd tried. About working nights, the elevator that worked 2 days out of 5, the granola bar she called breakfast. She hadn't planned to say anything about Northwestern. It came out anyway, 7 credits. She'd been 7 credits from finishing when her sister needed her. Ji-hoon was quiet for a moment. What was the degree? Pre-law. He nodded once. Something shifted behind his eyes, a small recalibration, like a man revising a preliminary assessment upward. Eli woke up at 9:43 a.m. He looked at Ji-hoon first, then at Maya. Mommy, completely calm, as though he'd simply napped in a different location. You found me. I found you. Eli studied Ji-hoon with the thoroughness of someone who hadn't learned to pretend he wasn't staring. Your face is stuck like grumpy, but I think you're actually nice. He told me, he added, pointing at Zara Jr. Ji-hoon looked at the elephant. What else did he tell you? That you needed a nap. He was right. Eli accepted this with satisfaction. Then he looked around the office, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city below, and announced, You should come to our house. Mossy makes the yellow chicken. Maya opened her mouth. Friday, Ji-hoon said. Not a question. 3 days. Maya cleaned things that didn't need cleaning. Flipped sofa cushions, moved the kitchen table 2 inches left, moved it back. Stood in the meat aisle for 14 minutes looking up recipes she couldn't execute before accepting the situation and buying 4 more lemons. She knew how to make the lemon chicken. Zara had taught her. The recipe lived in Maya's hands more than her head. Eli drew every evening. Thursday night, she looked at his latest portrait. 3 figures in front of a house with flowers and a sun, the tallest figure's arm extending down toward the smallest. She didn't ask who the third figure was, she already knew. Ji-hoon arrived at exactly 6 p.m. dark jeans. A fitted sweater and pale blue sleeves pushed to his forearms. A watch that caught the hallway light and didn't announce itself. In his right hand, a bottle of red wine. In his left, a small bag. He held the bag toward Eli, who had answered the door in his best button-down and khakis. Your mother has to approve it first. Maya looked in the bag, a box of crayons, 64 count, the kind with the built-in sharpener. The kind Eli had pointed at in the store 3 weeks ago, and she'd quietly moved him past. How did you know? She asked. He mentioned it. I pay attention. Eli found gold. He held it up. Mommy. Gold. I see it, baby. There's a gold one. I see it. Gold. Mommy. Ji-hoon looked at Maya over the top of Eli's head. His expression didn't change, but something in it acknowledged the situation with something that was not quite amusement and not quite not amusement. Come in, Maya said. While she finished the chicken, Ji-hoon sat on the floor, not on the couch. Eli had his dinosaurs sorted by period along the coffee table, and Ji-hoon sat cross-legged beside him and said nothing. Eli explained the distinction between a brachiosaurus and a brontosaurus, and Ji-hoon listened like someone who found it worth knowing. Maya watched from the kitchen doorway. Neither of them noticed her. She went back to the chicken and said nothing either, but she filed the image away somewhere she wouldn't examine too closely. Not yet. He found Zara's photograph before dinner. Maya was setting the table when she heard him stop moving. That particular quality of stillness, a person not pausing but stopping, which was different. Ji-hoon was at the bookshelf looking at Zara at 20, before the hardest years, laughing at something off camera, her natural hair a full crown of curls catching the light. Around Zara's left wrist, a silver bracelet, small and fine. A single crane in mid-flight, wings fully extended, hand-hammered links connecting it on either side. Ji-hoon looked at that bracelet for 4 seconds. Maya recognized the 4 seconds for what they were, not appreciation, recognition. That's my sister, she said. Zara, where is she past? 3 years ago. Complications after Eli was born. Ji-hoon was quiet. I'm sorry. Thank you. He looked back at the photograph, his jaw shifted slightly. One small movement, controlled immediately. Maya watched his hand. He raised it toward the frame, stopped with his index finger a half inch from the glass. He didn't touch it. He lowered his hand, the bracelet she's wearing. Do you know where it came from? She never said. I always assumed someone gave it to her. Ji-hoon said nothing. Maya waited. She didn't know yet what she was waiting for. She only knew that the way he was looking at that photograph had changed the quality of the air in the room. A pressure shift, the kind that preceded weather, and that the question he just asked was not a passing observation. It was the beginning of something. Dinner was good. The lemon came through the way it was supposed to. Bright, clean. Ji-hoon ate without comment for the first 3 minutes, which she had learned was not indifference. It was the way he registered something he meant. This is excellent. My sister taught me. She told him about Northwestern, the full scholarship, the 3.8 GPA built from scratch, how close she'd been, what close had ultimately meant. Ji-hoon listened without advice, without solutions, without the particular brand of sympathy that was actually just discomfort in formal wear. He just listened. Near the end of the meal, Eli looked at Ji-hoon with the directness only 3-year-olds could sustain. Do you have a family? He asked. Ji-hoon was quiet for exactly 2 seconds. Not yet, he said. He looked at Eli, giving the question its full weight. Then he looked at Maya. Not long, not obvious. The kind of look that lasted just past the point where it could be called accidental. Maya became very interested in the lemon on the rim of her water glass. He left at 8:47 p.m. at the door, jacket over his arm, the bracelet in the photograph. I need to look into something. I'll explain when I know more. That sounds like the beginning of a bad sentence. It might be. I'll call you, she nodded. He left Maya, stood at the closed door for a long time. She was thinking about the bracelet, about the 4 seconds, about his fingers stopping just short of the glass. She was also thinking about Not Yet, from the living room. Did Batman eat dinner? Batman ate dinner, baby. Okay. A pause. I like him. Maya looked at Zara's photograph one more time. I know, she said. Me too. She turned off the kitchen light and went to put her son to bed. Thomas Park called Ji-hoon at 6:47 p.m. on a Thursday, 9 days after the dinner. Ji-hoon called Maya 11 minutes later. She knew from the way he said her name, not Miss Collins. Just Maya, one word, set down gently. The way you set down something fragile before delivering news that isn't. The results came back. Familial match, 47.3%. Daniel is Eli's biological father. Maya sat down on the kitchen floor, not because she chose to. The linoleum was cold through her work pants. The faucet dripped 11 seconds, 12:11 again. She sat holding the phone, listening to the silence on the other end, which was Ji-hoon not rushing her. She'd known. Since the photograph, the bracelet, the way he'd pulled his finger back from the glass, she'd known this was where it was going. Knowing ahead of time did not make the landing softer. Maya, I'm here. I'm already in the car. He arrived in 11 minutes. He sat beside her on the couch, not across, beside, close enough that she was aware of the solidity of him, not crowding. Just present. He didn't speak first. Neither did she. 6 minutes passed. During the 4th minute, his arm shifted so his forearm rested against hers on the cushion. That was all. She didn't move away. On the 6th minute, his brother, all this time. Yes. Zara never told anyone, not even me. She had reasons, Ji-hoon said. Whatever they were hers. Maya looked at her hands. What do we do with this? Whatever you decide. I'll follow your lead. She looked at him, the clean line of his jaw, the small scar above his left eyebrow she'd learned to look for. You fixed the faucet, she said, last week, while you were at your Thursday class. I didn't ask you to do that. I know. The faucet had been silent for several days. She'd been too exhausted to register the absence of the sound she'd learned to sleep through. Thank you. It took 6 minutes, he said, as though that was the only relevant information. It wasn't. And they both knew it. Daniel Kwon called on a Monday. She didn't recognize the number. Maya Collins. His voice was warm, measured. The voice of a man who had learned warmth was a tool like any other. I understand you've been raising my son. He's not your son. Biologically, he is. I'd like to be part of his life. I have resources you don't. I think Eli deserves the best possible future. I'd hate for a custody situation to become adversarial when it doesn't have to be. She ended the call. The warmth had never wavered, and that was the thing that made her hand tighten on the phone. Genuine warmth moved. This didn't. She called Ji-hoon that night. When she finished, 4 seconds of silence. He's already spoken to lawyers. I'll find out how far along this is. She understood then what it meant to have someone who didn't require her to explain why the situation was serious, who simply believed her and moved. 2 weeks later, her parents appeared at the door of apartment 4B. Pastor Raymond Collins in a charcoal suit, clerical collar. First Lady Gloria Collins beside him in cream lace pearl strand. Both dressed as though about to address a congregation of 2,000. Eleanor, her father said. Nobody else called her that anymore. We need to talk. 5 minutes, Maya said. And you don't address him without my permission. What followed was 6 days she had not planned for. Her parents came every afternoon, brought groceries. Sat on the floor with Eli. Raymond read him the Caterpillar book, and Eli pressed against his side with total trust, the way children extended trust before they knew the reasons not to. On the 4th day, Gloria stood in front of Zara's photograph and wept. She looked so happy, I forgot. She was happy. Before. Gloria reached for Maya's hand. Maya let her, briefly. She told herself she wasn't hopeful. She was. She told Ji-hoon that evening. He said, watch what they ask about, not what they say. On the 8th day, she came home at 8:04 p.m. instead of 11:30. Eli had a temperature. She took the stairs. She was quiet. Habit from years of not waking Eli on re-entry. She heard her father's voice before she opened the door. His business voice, lower, precise, stripped of the warmth he deployed publicly. Trust is established. The boy knows us. He's comfortable with us. A pause. By end of month is achievable. We agreed on 340,000. Half at filing, half contingent on outcome. Maya stood in the hallway. She did not move. Gloria, quieter, Raymond. Are you certain about? The roof isn't going to fix itself, Gloria. The building fund has been at zero since March. This is a solution. But Eleanor will understand in time. That family is complicated. We're ensuring Eli has a father. Silence on Gloria's side. The particular silence of a woman who disagreed and had decided, again, that it wasn't worth what it cost. Maya stood there for 7 seconds, long enough to understand the church roof was $1.2 million in debt, and her parents had come not because guilt had finally become unbearable, but because a man with a checkbook had made them an offer. Long enough to understand that Zara's son, 3 years old with Batman the Spider and 64 crayons, was to these people a problem with a financial solution. She opened the door. Raymond looked up from the phone. The color left his face by increments. Gloria turned. Her hand rose to her mouth. Maya stood in the center of the kitchen. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. $340,000. That's what you decided Zara's son is worth. Eleanor, let me explain. You came here for 6 days, you read him the caterpillar book, you let him fall asleep against your shoulder. Her voice was even, terrifyingly even. And the entire time you were building a case for the man who left his mother alone. Daniel has resources. Get out of my home. Not loud. Each word the same weight as the one before it. Raymond drew himself up. You're not thinking clearly. Get out. Gloria moved first. Maya held the door open. They went. Raymond last, his expression still calculating, still looking for the angle that hadn't closed. The door shut. The chain slid home. Maya stood against it for 4 seconds. Then she called Ji-hoon. They were working with Daniel the whole time. Her voice finally was not steady. I know. Thomas confirmed it this afternoon. I was trying to find the right moment. I'm sorry I didn't move faster. Come over. I'm already in the car. Daniel filed the custody petition 4 days later. 3 attorneys, a 6-figure salary, a family name that opened doors in this city. What he didn't have was 9 days of Thomas Park's work in a folder on Victoria Chen's desk. A dead woman's journal documenting every message sent and ignored, every promise made and broken, every day of a pregnancy he had known about and walked away from. What he didn't have was any idea of what was already waiting for him. The kitchen light went out at 11:22 p.m. Maya didn't move to change it. She stood in the dark, one hand on the door. Through the window above the sink, the city's ambient glow came faintly in. She could hear Eli breathing through the baby monitor, slow even, completely unafraid. The same sound Ji-hoon had listened to on the 47th floor. She stood there until she heard the knock. He came in, sat down across from her in the dark. Ji-hoon folded his hands on the table. He looked at her. He waited. She told him everything, not because he didn't know, but because saying it out loud to someone who would hold it carefully was different from carrying it alone. He didn't offer analysis. He just sat there. Some nights the most important thing a person could do was stay in the room. Victoria is ready whenever you are. That's Daniel's clock, not yours. I should fix the light. I'll do it. He was already standing. Victoria Chen had been a family law attorney for 19 years. She spread documents across Maya's kitchen table and went through them without softening edges, because softening edges was not what Maya had asked for. Daniel has 3 attorneys. The lead one bills at $850 an hour. They'll argue reformed character, biological right, financial capacity. They'll position you as a single-income household with an unstable work history. It isn't. I know. Victoria tapped the journal. This is our foundation. Zara's journal documents 14 months of a pregnancy Daniel knew about and walked away from. Every ignored message, every broken promise, she paused. But to use it fully, to read from it in court, the details become public record. Your community will hear it. Your parents' congregation will hear it. Maya was quiet. You'd be exposing Zara's story in a room full of strangers. That's a real cost. Is it enough to win? Combined with Daniel's civil litigation history across 2 states and 3 years of documented non-contact, yes, I believe it's enough to win decisively. Maya looked at the journal. Zara's handwriting on the cover, neat, slightly tilted right, the way it always was. I need 48 hours. She called Victoria back Thursday morning at 7:14. Read every page, she said. She didn't explain further. Victoria didn't ask her to. The courtroom was smaller than she expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lighting. It looked like a place where ordinary things happened, which was either reassuring or the most honest thing she'd ever seen. Daniel was already seated, light gray suit. He glanced at Maya, a brief, assessing look, not hostile, worse, dismissive, the look of a man who had already done the math. Victoria opened the journal at page 1. She read for 41 minutes. Daniel looked down at the table by page 3 and didn't look up again. The words were Zara's, her rhythm, her precision, the specific quality of her hurt in sentences written at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., the date of every unanswered message, the exact wording of Daniel's last reply, 2 sentences suggesting she handle it and let him know how it went. The room was very still. Outside, Ji-hoon sat in the hallway. He had not come in. This was Maya's room, Maya's fight. He sat with his elbows on his knees and looked at the floor. The people who walked past recognized him. None approached. His presence there, still, controlled, committed to staying, said everything without requiring him to say it. The judge's decision took 11 minutes. The petition for custody is denied. Maya sat perfectly still. Mr. Kwon's 3-year absence from the child's life constitutes abandonment under Illinois statute. The evidence demonstrates that his current interest in the child follows a DNA confirmation and precedes any independent attempt at contact with the minor. Custody remains with Eleanor Maya Collins. Supervised visitation will not be granted pending the outcome of the civil fraud investigation currently open in the Northern District. The gavel. Maya sat for 9 seconds. It felt important to let the moment be its actual size, the end of something that had been trying to take her son. 9 seconds for that to be real. Then she exhaled. Victoria put a hand on her shoulder. You did it? We did it. You did it, Victoria repeated. I just read the pages. Ji-hoon was standing when she came through the door, reading her face before she reached him. She nodded once. He closed his eyes for 1 second, then opened them, and in his expression, the stillness of a man not often allowing himself to feel things fully, now allowing it, she saw relief that had been waiting a long time to be let out. He didn't say anything. She didn't either. She walked to where he was standing, and that was enough. 5 months later, Northwestern's graduation ceremony. Maya had finished her remaining 7 credits in 1 semester. Night classes, weekend sessions, early mornings with a thermos of coffee. The same way she'd done everything for 3 years, deciding it was necessary and treating exhaustion as a logistical problem rather than a reason. She was in the gold dress, chiffon, floor-length, small embroidered leaves climbing from the hem. She'd spent more on it than on any single item of clothing in 4 years and had not talked herself out of it, which was its own kind of progress. Her name was called Eleanor Maya Collins. She heard him before she saw him. That's my mom. Eli's voice, carrying clean and certain over the assembled 400. No self-consciousness, no calculation, just fact delivered at full volume. The pretty one in the gold dress. Right there, see her? That's mine. Laughter moved through the hall in a warm wave. Maya looked up. Ji-hoon was in the 3rd row, Eli on his shoulders, pointing with both hands. His expression was controlled, as it always was, except for the dimple, the right one, visible for exactly the duration it took Maya to cross the stage. She filed it away in the same place she'd filed the dinosaur taxonomy evening. And not yet, and 6 minutes of silence on a couch, and the fixed faucet on a quiet Thursday. She raised her diploma once. For him. For Eli. For Zara, who had taught her the lemon chicken and the importance of getting out of a chair when it counted. Outside, in the organized chaos of post-ceremony photographs, Ji-hoon found her near the E-steps. He was holding an envelope. One more thing. Ji-hoon, open it. Inside, Northwestern University School of Law. Her name on the letterhead. Full scholarship. September enrollment. She read it twice. You submitted the application. I submitted the paperwork. The essay was yours. The record was yours. The dean called me after the acceptance to say the committee flagged your application as exceptional. I didn't ask him to call. He wanted me to know. Why did you do this? He was quiet for a moment, the way he was quiet when he was going to say something true. Because you were 7 credits from something that mattered, and life interrupted, and you kept going anyway. And because I've spent 9 years building things alone, and I'm tired of it, and you're the first person I've met in a long time who I'd rather build something with. She looked at him, the scar above his left eyebrow, the careful stillness of him, the dimple that appeared and disappeared like something he hadn't fully decided to share yet. That's the most words you've ever said in a row. I've been saving them. She took his hand, not dramatically, not with the architecture of a moment designed to be felt. She simply reached over and took his hand the way you take hold of something you've decided to keep, and he let her, and that was the whole of it. Eli appeared between them approximately 4 seconds later, with the timing of a person who had been waiting just off stage. Can we get jerk chicken? He was still wearing his clip-on bow tie, slightly askew. I'm hungry, and Batman is probably hungry too, and also logic says yes. Maya looked at Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon looked at Maya. Batman doesn't eat jerk chicken, Maya said. You don't know that. You've never asked him. They stood on the steps of Northwestern for a moment before moving. The 3 of them. The city behind them in October light. That particular shade of blue that only existed for about 3 weeks, and then was gone until the following year. Maya held her diploma in both hands. The embossed letters of her name caught the light. She thought about Zara, a girl who had stood in a kitchen in a yellow sundress and taught her younger sister how to make chicken with lemons and herbs, who had loved a boy so completely that she'd named him after a promised land, and who had been gone 3 years and was somehow still in all of it, in the recipe, in the elephant worn soft at the ear, in the way Eli laughed with his whole body, head back, eyes closed, exactly the way she had. You okay? Ji-hoon asked. Yeah, Maya said. She meant it, for the first time in a long time. Not in the performed way, not in the way of someone convincing themselves. She simply, genuinely meant it. She took 1 step down, then another. Ji-hoon fell in beside her. Eli ran ahead, bow tie fully sideways, already negotiating the jerk chicken situation with Batman via an imaginary text message. The city received them without ceremony, the way it received everything, loud, relentless, without memory of anyone it had already broken. The difference was, she remembered, and she was still here. Before you go, I need to ask you something. When Maya made the choice to read Zara's journal aloud in that courtroom, knowing her sister's story would become public record, knowing her parents' congregation would hear every word, knowing she would be handing strangers the most private parts of a woman who could no longer speak for herself, what would you have done? That's not a rhetorical question. I genuinely want to know. Because that choice, the one where you pay a real price to win something that matters, is the hardest kind there is. And Maya made it without hesitation. Not because it was easy, because it was the only way to protect someone who couldn't protect himself yet. Zara kept a journal for 14 months. She wrote in it at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., and on a warm Tuesday in March, she wrote it for no audience. And in the end, it was the most powerful thing in that courtroom. If this story stayed with you, drop a comment. Tell me which moment hit you hardest. Was it Maya on the kitchen floor when Ji-hoon called? Was it Eli on Ji-hoon's shoulders at graduation? Was it Raymond's voice through the door, quiet and businesslike, putting a number on his own grandchild? Tell me. I read every single one. And if you're not subscribed yet, this is the story that brought you here. There are more of them. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell because the next one is already coming, and you won't want to find out you missed the beginning. Thank you for being here for all 6 parts. Now go get jerk chicken. You've earned it.